Hey fellow mutants, welcome back to another video. Now, if you guys know, I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan. I my favorite Ninja Turtle film is Secret of the Ooze. My favorite Ninja Turtle comic is Last Ronin. My favorite Ninja Turtle game is Shredder's Revenge. Why am I going on this weird what's my favorite version of Ninja Turtles in movies, games, comics? I know, by the way, the old three turtles are my favorite because I grew up with them. Anyways, why am I going into that tangent? Because we're going to talk about The Last Ronin. And this has something to do with the 90s trilogy, right? And if there's going to be a Last Ronin production, live action, I am so hoping this pans out to be true. And The Last Ronin writers wants original April O'Neil to star in the R-rated adaptation. And dude, that'll be sick. April O'Neil in TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze. Even if, and I misspelled Ooze, I'm a fake turtle fan, I guess. If she's not going to be in the movie, I am hoping this actress, who was April O'Neil in the next two Ninja Turtle films, is going to be April. It's either her or the original April. Because that would be so freaking awesome. Anyways. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle writer Tom Walsh wants legacy cast member Judith Hoag to return as April O'Neil in the upcoming R-rated outing Last Ronin to TMNT Last Ronin. In an interview with Screen Rant, Waltz, whose contribution to the TMNT franchise over years have included various video games and comics, including The Last Ronin comic book sequel, TMNT Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution, declared his hopes that Hoag will come back to the franchise as it will please longtime fans. Quote unquote. For most of the Ninja Turtle audience, Judith Hoag's portrayal of April had a formative impact on their attention to the series. As a person who that covers, I can agree. I can't vouch for that, I should say. Judith Hoag first starred as reporter April O'Neil in the 1990 live-action adaptation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a movie that still holds a special place in the hearts of fans. Yes, it does. I want to say the 90s trilogy still holds a special place in fans' hearts, even though as bad as the third one might have been, it still holds a better place than a lot of the Ninja Turtle stuff in terms of movies and shows nowadays. Anyways, I agree with the statement. Anyways, well, the actress did not reprise the role for future sequels. She did make a cameo in a deleted scene of the 2016 reboot Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. I've watched this deleted scene. It's cool. I won't be reacting to it, but if I can find it, I will put the link to the deleted scene in the description below, so you guys can watch it. As well as, of course, this article, as I usually put the articles to every every article I read in the description. Anyways, along an R-rated live-action adaptation of The Last Ronin, a video game based on the story, is also now in development, and Waltz hopes that Hoag will be involved in some capacity. Quote unquote, my dream is for the lovely and intelligent Judith Hoag to be part of something we do in other media for The Last Ronin. So the last Ronin, TMNT The Last Ronin, set in the future, Battle with Rabbits, New York City. I want to say before I continue, the reason why Judith Hoag wasn't in this Ninja 2 or 3, as they kind of like hinted that she wasn't in the future sequels, was because like she was complaining about the violence in the first one. So since they felt, oh, she was being too difficult to work with because of that, she kept on complaining about the violence. We're not gonna have her in the sequels, which is why she wasn't in Secret of the Ooze, or essentially in Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, as some people like to call it. But that's the reason why Judith Hall was replaced, because she kept on complaining about the violence. Probably other reasons too, but that was one of the reasons why the director says, yeah, this woman's so difficult to work with. Anyways, so getting back to this bit, okay, created. By the way, I grew up on these turtles. These are my first Ninja Turtles in terms of the show. Created by Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, Tom Waltz, and Andy Cohen, with art from Conan Ben Bates. Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin began back in 2020 and ran for 5 issues, which I have thanks to Eamon Fate. Shout out to him. Um, Set in a future version of New York City, which is now ruled over the descendant of Shredder. It was Shredder's grandson, Cry's son. Spoiler alert. Last Ronin tells us a much darker TMNT story than the audience are used to. You can check out the official synopsis of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin below. So, quote unquote, who is the Last Ronin? In a future battle ravaged New York City, a lone surviving turtle embarks on a seemingly hopeless mission, seeking justice for his family he lost. From legendary TMNT co-creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, get ready for the final story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 3 decades in the making. And it was 3 decades in the making. Dude, that was so fucking badass. So anyways, live action adaptation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin is being produced by Walter Hamada for Paramount Pictures, with Boys Kills Worlds and Child's Play writer Tyler Purden Smith penning the script. No director or cast members have yet been announced. Along with live action movie, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will continue it light up the big screen in animation form. The characters were rebooted last year by Seth Rogen and a few other people in the critically acclaimed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, was reintroduced Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Raphael to a new audience. And note, a television show and a sequel are now in the works, with a series entitled Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Due to the premiere of the Paramount Plus series in August, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem 2, meanwhile, is scheduled to be released on October 9th, 2026. But dude, if we can get this actress, Judith Hoag, to come back as April, oh, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. Because for me, she was the first April O'Neil. Even before because I was born after the 90s movies came out. I was born in 96, right? So for a few years of my existence, I've only watched the original trilogy. I had not watched the 87 series. I relatively recently watched the 90s trilogy in the 87 series in completion. So for me, for a while, like the 3 live action 90s trilogy movies and the '03 series was my primary like My two primary sources of Ninja Turtles knowledge for a good while. That I about found out about the 87 series, the 1997 series, and my life ever since then. I have not looked back, and I was like two, three, or four when I first got into the Ninja Turtles, and I'm 28 now. But man, like if we can have Judith Hoag come back as April O'Neil, that'd be sweet. And I've been begging for like the Ninja Turtles to like go back to this like serious tone for a while. A lot of people are saying, "What do you think? What about the '90s film, dude?" Like most people misread or mishear me when I say I want another serious Ninja Turtle film because the '90s film was great. The Secret of the Ooze film, which is my personal favorite Ninja Turtle film, it was good, but admittedly, even though it's my favorite Ninja Turtle film, it's not as great as the original Ninja Turtles film. And I want another Ninja Turtle film that's either as serious or even more serious than the '90s film. I want a Ninja Turtle film that essentially challenges the '90s Ninja Turtle film as the best Ninja Turtle film out there. And I do believe if they play their cards right, the Last Ronin movie could be that movie that could challenge the '90s film to be the best Ninja Turtle film to date. Bring back the like rubber suits, the Jim Henson like effect that we have for the Turtles, Splinter, Toga, and Rainsaw. I don't mind CGI, but have more practical effects than CGI in the Last Ronin film. I'm telling you, if they can pull it off, the acting, practical effects, sprinkle a hint of CGI, not too much CGI, but sprinkle a little bit of CGI, mostly practical effects. Be faithful to the story of Last Ronin. Oh my god, it could. Oh my god, it could be beautiful. And the thing is, too, the beauty about the Last Ronin, right? Comic, it was in 5 parts. So like, you could have like a two-parter of a movie, right? Take everything that was in like the 5 issues and break it up in at least 2 parts. Part one, Last Ronin Part One, Last Ronin Part Two. Don't try to pull like essentially the last shipbender, as I like to call it, was the last shipbenders, the last airbender. It's supposed to be M Night Shyamalan's like retelling of after the last Airbender series. But part of that issue for me was I have a lot of issues with the last Airbender movie. But one of the issues I have that is relevant to the point I'm making right now with the last, like, I'm hoping that they won't repeat with the last Ronin is it tried to cram too much information in one movie. The last Airbender movie should have been 2 parts so we can get some time to breathe and have all the information set, right? We should have had like season one in 2 parts, season two in 2 parts, season three in 2 parts. So we can have like essentially by the time the last Airbender and not Shyamalan's last Airbender movies are done, we will have had 6 last Airbender films. If he did that, which he didn't, and that's why part of the reason why the last Airbender was terrible. Bring my point with the last Airbender into the last Ronin. I am wanting them to split the last Ronin story up in at least 2 parts, three maybe, but definitely 2 parts. Because I feel like that's could lean into like the last Ronin benefit. Lee end on a cliffhanger. and on a cliffhanger. And like, don't change anything that like in the story, unless if you want to like. The only thing I would I would accept as a fan of the Last Ronin that he change is the reveal of the Last Ronin. I won't reveal who it is in this video for argument's sake, but and maybe like if you're doing for 2 parts, have the reveal be towards the end of the first part, right? Kind of so that way, like part 1 of the movie, if you're doing part 2, right? So that way you can kind of say that, oh yeah, this is kind of mirroring the Last Ronin 5-bit story arc, right? Because the Last Ronin, um, like the identity was revealed towards the end of the first issue, but the reveal in this version would have been like a little bit later, towards like in the timeline. But maybe that's a bad idea. But if they like, I don't know. How do you guys feel if the reveal was towards the end of the first part? Besides, like, if they could cover like part 1 through like 3, right? I don't know. It could work if they play their cards right. Is my point. But anyways, this is exciting. I so am hoping this is true. I'm so hoping the Last Ronin adaptation is good, because I can tell you right now, if it is dog shit, I'll be one of the people that screams the loudest, just as much as people you hear nowadays screaming about how like Disney ruined Star Wars. I'll be one of those people with the Last Ronin. I will be, no joke. Anyways, what do you guys think? Let me know. Comment section down below. Love y'all. Remember day. You kind of want another. I will talk to you fellow mutants later.
Yeah! You like what you saw? Then give it up for a turtle!